On today's episode of the DuckZone503 Podcast, we're going to be previewing the Week 1 matchup, Portland State at number 15, Oregon. At the very end, we're also going to be giving our final score predictions as well. I got a special guest, so stay tuned after the intro. I'm your host, Dominiqk Peterson. This is the DuckZone503 Podcast, where we talk all things Oregon football. Let's get into it, people.
Welcome to the DuckZone503 Podcast. Talking all things Oregon football. With your host, Dominiqk Peterson. Let's go.
Welcome into today's edition of the DuckZone503 Podcast. The date is Wednesday, August 30th, and I am happy to be with you people. I'm joined by the one and only guys, Rian Winter, a.k.a. Sports Chat 503, baby. How we doing, man?
Fantastic. How are you, man?
I'm doing great, man. It's finally here. Game week, week 1. I'm pumped up. It's just like Christmas morning. You know the feeling, man. Yeah. So, Mr. Rian Winter here and I are going to do this preview. Week 1 matchup, Portland State versus Oregon, giving our keys of the game as well. And then finally, our final score predictions. But first, guys, make sure you're subscribed to the podcast, people. We got 792 subscribers. I'm trying to get to 1,000. Let's get us there, people. Tell your friends, your family, your pets. I don't care, everybody. Tell them to hit that sub button. Appreciate you for everybody locking in. So I'll be there. So will Ryan. He'll be in Eugene, Oregon. We'll be vlogging the game, full game day experience. It's going to be fun, man. It's going to be an awesome experience. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. All right, guys. So let's get right into it. We got this week 1 matchup. Ryan, how excited are you just coming into college football, man? Just laying in.
It's the best time of the year, man. I mean, it's our favorite sport. So, yeah, I think it's fun. I think it's fun to start with PSU as well. Get a nice start. You and I were both down in Atlanta last year. A very different situation this year, having a home game and having a game that's winnable. So, it's it'll look more like an exhibition by the second half. But I think the first half, you might be able to, get tested a little bit. Maybe they move the ball on you a little bit defensively and maybe struggle a little bit offensively. But I think that's a good thing for everybody. Put some quality film on tape, move on to the next one. Go on to the next one.
100%. Autzen Stadium, noon kickoff. So Portland State last year, they were 4-7, 3-5 in the Big Sky. Head coach Bruce Barnum enters his 8th season. He's 30-50 overall for the Vikings, and I think it's cool that the Vikings are coming into Eugene because I bet you a lot of these Portland State players, they probably looked up to wanting to be Ducks. Now they have the opportunity to come into Eugene and get that game day experience, maybe that they've always wanted and compete with the best of the best, So that's going to be fun. And, like you said, unlike last season, we don't have to run into a buzzsaw like we did in Dan Lanning's first game against Georgia. We all seen how that went. Now this year we get the exact opposite of that. We get a nice tune-up game before week 2 against Texas Tech on the road. So real quick, Ryan, everyone knows, the situation with the lower level school, coming into a big time program to collect a big check from Oregon and getting their, booty whooped in the process of doing so. So, what are some just things you're going to be looking for on the field from the Ducks in week 1, because it's an obvious win. What are just some things you're going to be locking in on?
Well, I think most people are wanting to see the defense play better, get some more pressure on the quarterback. This guy, Dante Sacheret, he runs the ball very well. He moves around the pocket. So, I mean, you got to see some better defense, right? I think that's the main thing. And, I think a lot of Duck fans want just pure obliteration. They want, like a 50-3 type of thing or something. I don't know. I don't have a certain number that would be respectful or not. I want to see the defense come out and play well. Last year, people were disappointed with the defense. The end of the year didn't go the way they wanted to. The defense kind of let them down in a couple different games. They barely eked out those last games, those last 4 or 5 games of the year, including the last game of the year, the bowl game down in San Diego, won by a freaking inch, with that crossbar. And I just think that, you got to go blow a team out to really help kind of motivate people to kind of get off your back a little bit about this thing. And you got to go into Texas Tech with some motivation. You got to go in there with some, mojo going your way and have a little momentum. And, I think the Portland State tune-up game is kind of what the opener should always be. I know that it's fun to do the opener, like when we went to see the LSU game, which was another rip your heart out moment. we went, to the Texas with the Auburn or, I think those kickoff games are fun, but it'd be nice to cash one in. I mean, it would be fun to kind of win one, but I don't know. It feels like the easy way to start it with Portland State, give them the check, keep the check in house, and then go play a quality opponent in week 2. You get tune up on week 1, go play week 2.
100%. I agree with that. Coming in, getting this cupcake game, real easy coming in. And, I think that's a great thing to do, tune up before going on the road in Texas Tech, because that's going to be a hostile environment. We already heard it's sold out. It's going to be nuts. So something that I'm going to be looking for, how well is the offensive line playing together? The media was all over it in this offseason. I don't know how Oregon's going to be this season. They replaced 4 out of 5 starters, while true Duck fans like you and I, Ryan, who actually pay attention to the team through it day in and day out, knew that this wasn't going to be a major drop-off from the team. You might expect that when you lost basically 80% of your production, but you bring in transfers like Junior Angelau from Texas, 6'6" guard, can play both sides of the ball for guard as well. A Johnny Cornelius, Rhode Island transfer, number 1 rated tackle out of FCS. We can't forget Nashad Strother, East Carolina transfer as well. So all those guys look to make instant impacts on the field. You also add in the fact you bring in players back like Jackson Powers Johnson, Stephen Jones, Marcus Harper. They've all played meaningful snaps in their careers. So feels like the Ducks are in pretty good hands this season at the offensive line spot. And another thing I'll be watching is, how well they protect Bo Nix. This. Last year's offensive line allowed only 1 sack in the first 8 games. So I'm going to be watching how well they can open up those running lanes for the backs as well. I think Oregon should dominate on both sides of the ball when it comes to the line of scrimmage against this Portland State team. So, everyone had this group circled, marked going into the season. I want to see his O-line and come out and dominate like I know they can. And then number 2, I got how well does the secondary cover, okay? Speaking of questions mark coming in, the Ducks lost their top corner, Christian Gonzalez, to the draft this offseason, and the secondary is coming off a pretty disappointing season. They allowed nearly 270 yards per game. The Ducks added transfers such as Kyrie Jackson from Alabama, who looks to make a name for himself with the Ducks. Nico Reed from Colorado was another key addition. We all saw the last Colorado defensive back transfer here. He did good things, so let's hope for the same thing with Nico. And on the back end, we added guys like Tyson Johnson from Ole Miss, who finished nearly with 80 tackles last year. Would have led the Ducks last year for tackles if he was on the team with that. And let's not forget Evan Williams, brother of Bennett Williams, coming out of Fresno State. 4 years of playing experience under his belt. So again, Dan Lanning here, filling up those holes through the transfer portal. Let's see if these guys can come in and make some instant impacts for that defense, something I'll be watching. And finally, is the defense tackling well? Okay, we all know week 1, every team is going to have some mishaps, but, from being out of place, miscommunications, false starts, week 1 always has those mishaps. We all remember how bad the Oregon defense tackled in week 1s against Georgia last season. So now I want to see, how well they tackle against Portland State. And I get Georgia was a very talented team, hard to tackle in the first place, but I want to see this defense really get after it and tackle well. Something you want to see every team do in your week 1 game. So although in the offseason we heard from the defense in the interviews, we heard they want to be respected and feared. We heard that a lot, quote unquote. I think it starts with tackling the man in front of you properly. So those are 3 things I'll be watching. Ryan, what are some things, without giving me a final score, what are some things you're expecting from this game from Oregon?
Oh, I mean, I think you're going to see some explosion plays, obviously. I would expect you're going to see some big plays, big touchdowns, wide receiver. My big takeaway in the offseason with the Will Stein offense, I just think Bo is not going to run that much this year. I think he's going to be pretty stationary. They want to keep him in the pocket. They're going to throw the ball to wide receivers, make the wide receivers make plays. That Tez Johnson play in the spring game where he caught that ball for a 5-6 yard pass, turned into a 70-yard tutty or whatever. That's what they're looking to do. They're looking to use these wide receivers and use these athletes in the right way. And, Bo Nix is a guy who, historically, was a running quarterback. He's turned himself into a much better passing quarterback. That's what the NFL wants to see anyway. So if he's trying to really audition for the NFL this year, he better be throwing the ball deep. So I would expect to see some explosion plays on offense. And then on defense, I want to see some big plays too. I want to see some sacks. I want to see him get after the quarterback. This quarterback, he gets around. He led their team in rushing last year. I mean, so the guy can move. And they've got some wide receivers that, are good as well. I think this is a team, I think it's overstated this idea that Portland State is just like terrible. Like, these are good players. Like, most of these guys were probably the best player on their high school team or one of the best players on their high school team. These guys are good athletes. It's just amazing how much better Oregon is. And that's how it's always been for the most part. But it just shows the level of competition that they're dealing with. And I think Oregon should be able to show up, show out, get out of there, stay healthy, get their players off the field, let their young guys get on the field. You have 4 games now to play before you get your red shirt taken. Freaking play the games, dude. I mean, come
100%.
on. Play the whole second half. I would, if I was the coach of this team, like I've said on my live stream earlier, I wouldn't have Bo in the second half at all. And he doesn't want to come out. I get it. He came back in the spring game to play. So it's like, I mean, I think he'll be fine. You just gotta get everybody out of there, get everybody back on the bus healthy. That's the main thing.
100%. I agree. That's huge key to the game. First off, I think the tune-up game makes everything, nice and easy going in. And then you got to expect these big pass plays with all the transfer wide receivers coming in. We've seen in the spring game, like you said, Tej Johnson. You've got to hit on these big plays with Bo Nix. And I agree, trying to keep Bo Nix in the pocket, not rush as much, is definitely a smart thing that I think you'll see these coaches do. And, I'm very happy with this first month of college football because great weather, right? We're going to have some great weather before Mother Nature decides to turn her attitude to rain for the next 7 to 8 months, however long. But seriously, though, getting back to Autzen and tailgating is what it's all about. Having some great weather with that is awesome as well. We all know, guys, it never rains in Autzen Stadium. So I expect this game to be over by halftime. I'm hoping to see, a lot of backups and reserves play as well. I want to see how deep Oregon can go. A lot of new guys. I want to see it all. I think this is a game you can do that. We've seen freshmen. We didn't get to see a lot of freshmen or transfers in the spring game, such as Jerion Dickey. That's going to be awesome to see. 5-star wide receiver. So I'm interested to see that. And, I know everyone's going to be interested in that Will Stein offense and what it's going to look like. But to be honest with you, I don't think they're going to be running a lot of what they're going to, probably run 6-7 plays out of the offense the whole game. I think it's going to be very vanilla. I don't think they're going to want to show too much ahead of Texas Tech and ahead of conference play. In a game like this, I think Dan Lanning's going to look, to have an opportunity to have a bunch of guys play, get some action, and see who works together the best and which groups don't. So that's going to be a great game to do that, where you didn't have the opportunity to do that. And that's his first game as the head coach last year at Georgia. So it's great to do that. I can't state that enough. He's also going to have, an opportunity, to get guys to heal up. Maybe if they're not ready to, if they suffered a little bit of nicks. We've heard a couple of injury reports coming from the guys like Max Torres and stuff like that. So there might be a couple of nicks, but if there are, you're able to use this game to maybe heal them up for that Texas Tech game. You don't have to use them right away. And as a Duck fan, I think one thing you should always be watching is basically basics and fundamentals of the game. Watch how well Oregon executes those things against the lower level opponent. I'm talking tackling, penalties, communications on both sides of the ball. It's going to be areas of focus for this week. So, guys, I really appreciate everybody, tuning into the podcast so far. If you guys want to show some serious love to the podcast, here's some merch, right? What's going on, guys? It's your boy Dominiqk Peterson, host of the DuckZone503 Podcast, where we talk all things Oregon football. Very excited to announce we just launched our very first merch store. Men's and women's t-shirts, hoodies, sweatshirts, stickers, phone cases, mugs, and cups are all sold at DuckZone503.creator-spring.com. If you want to go grab one of those today, that's DuckZone503.creator-spring.com. Store link will be in the description below as well. There you guys go. You guys know what to do. Go grab that merch if you want to show some love. Appreciate everybody tuning in for real. We got Rian Winter, the Sports Chat 503 podcast right here. He's on. He's ready to go. We're going to be there for week 1 in Eugene. We're giving our 3 keys right here, and then we're going to give our final score prediction. Let's start with our 3 keys, Ryan. You got 1, 2, 3. Stay healthy. That's your 3 keys.
Well,
Can't say it better, right?
As a coach, you always want your guys back on the bus healthy. Get out of there. This is a game that feels more like an exhibition than a regular season game, but you got to play it. It's on your schedule. These guys are fired up. They want to play well. They want to show up. They want to put good film on tape. These guys could be transfer portal guys next year. So, you got to put good film on tape when you can play quality opponents. And I've always thought that these kind of moments are really a showcase game for these Portland State guys. So, I would expect big things from them. They're going to try their best. I don't think they're going to get completely dominated, but I do think it's important to stay healthy. And I would also like to see them go up top and try to get some, aerial touchdowns. I think you need to throw the ball this year to be successful. I don't think you can just lean on the running backs this year. You got a new offensive line. I think they'll be fine, but you're going to want to balance this thing out. You want to keep the defense guessing as much as possible, because it felt like late in the year last year, the offense got very predictable, and the defense were able to clamp down a little bit on the Ducks. So I would love to see the offense show up, score 50 points, get out of there, have a great time in the second half, let everybody get to see the young guys in the second half, and get everybody on the bus and get out of there. And everybody gets home safe.
Couldn't say it better, man. For my 3 keys, number 1, stay healthy. Rule number 1, keep everyone healthy, right? The Ducks, if they get this win, that's great. But if they lose a major piece to the team due to injury in this game, that's the biggest L you can take in a winning game, right? So stay healthy. Keeping players fresh. Let them drink water. Get them in and out. Avoid injury. Extremely important for this game from the coaching staff. Number 2, I got no sacks, like I said earlier. Last year's Oregon O-line allowed only 1 sack in the first 8 games of the season. Now, it's really unheard of. I don't expect this O-line they don't really have to do that, but they're anywhere near that level of production. I mean, that's great. And keeping Bo Nix healthy is very important. So don't let PSU's D-line get in there and get sacks. Don't let them lay a finger on Nix. Have Nix maybe get it out quick is a big key. Have him stay healthy. Keep him, on his feet. And then number 3, keep the penalties low. This is week 1. There's a lot of mishaps. A lot of things can happen. You're placing 4 out of 5 on the O-line. Now, like I said, I expect this O-line to be good, but it's all about how they gel, especially in a week 1 matchup. You're in Autzen Stadium. Lots of fans around you, a whole bunch of pressure for the first time maybe as a big-time Oregon Duck player. So don't get penalties. Don't get rattled. Keep the penalties low. We're going to want to see that from the O-line, especially going into Lubbock for week 2. So it's a big thing I'm going to be watching. All right, man. So, pass interference, holding, stuff like that. I really want to stay away from that. Okay, let's get into prediction time, Ryan. Who do you got winning this game? I think it's pretty obvious, but who do you got winning? What's the score?
Yeah. I would say the Ducks. I think you're comfortable at over 40 points, and I think you're comfortable with PSU under 10 or right around that number. If they score a touchdown, I think you're comfortable with that, but you probably don't want them scoring 14 or more.
I agree, 100%. So you got around like 40
I would
to 10?
say 42, 48, 50. I mean,
Cool.
If they really want to pour it on, the real difference is if you get a defensive touchdown. You get a defensive touchdown, that's going to add to that final total. So then you probably get over 50.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that happening too. And it's something I want to see from the defense. Honestly, if they can get a couple touchdowns on the defense, it's a good sign.
Sure.
So yeah, 100%. So with me, like I said, I expect this game to be over by halftime. If it's not, for like USC where it's 21-14, I kind of throwing a shot here. But like USC,
that's a good point though.
Yeah. I'll be kind of a little concerned. So I want to see this game over by halftime. Anything less than a 4-score game for me, it will be like, we're going to a tough place to play week 2. So we got to be ready. I want to stay healthy, keep penalties low, and let's kick some ass, guys. I think this is a cakewalk for the Ducks. I got them winning 55-14 for my final score prediction. I think that wraps it up, Ryan. I think we got everything going, unless you want to add anything about this game. You want to add anything in before I want to ask you a couple rapid fire questions?
Yeah, no, that's fine. No, it's always a fun time. It's a party on the first game of the year.
Oh yeah, 100%, man. And if you guys see Ryan, go grab that man a beer, man. He loves to party. I do too.
I probably won't turn it down.
100%. So, okay, first off, I want to ask a couple rapid fire questions. I haven't had you on the podcast for a little while, and you're a fan favorite. Everybody loves you, and for good reason. I've been watching you ever since I was a kid, going years on end, tuning in, and it's funny how we connected because, we realized that, you taught my girlfriend So in school, and now we reconnect. So it's awesome. First off, though, on a personal level, just how was your summer? What's some awesome things you did? Anything during the summer you want to share to the fans?
No, the summer was great except for all the conference realignment chatter.
Oh, yeah,
Lord
that
have
took over the
mercy.
summer.
Yeah, it took over summer. No,
100%.
summer's great, man. I live like a freaking king, man. I do
Yeah.
a good job. I'm playing golf. Everything's great. But yeah, the conference
I
realignment
always,
was a lot.
yeah, that took over the headlines. I always
I was
see,
watching freaking Board of Regents meeting on a freaking YouTube. Why would I watch that?
I know who watches that except if there's realignment going on. I always see you on the water at the beach, man. Yeah, it looks awesome. Golfing, 100%. I love it, man.
I got a good setup.
I love it, man. So going into this season, let's everyone's talking about the defense for Oregon. They want to if the defense is good, they're going to reach some big time goals because we know this offense is going to score. Everybody kind of debates what area of the defense needs the biggest improvement. Is it the front seven? Is the secondary? What caught your eye? Which area of the defense do you think needs the biggest jump for this season?
Oh, I think the problem with last season was the defensive line got hurt. You had nobody. I mean, if you didn't have the transfers, you would have been nowhere. You would have been having guys off the practice squad. If you didn't have those transfers come in last year, Jordan Riley and Casey Rogers, you would have been toast. So, yeah, having the defense get injured last year was a big deal. Defensive line get injured last year was a big deal. So, I don't know. I tend to think that the defensive line, the linebackers are another one. It's a real question mark because the linebackers have a situation where, they need to adapt to this new defense. And I don't know if they really did exactly what they wanted to do last year. So I think the corners and I think the safeties will be fine. I think the corners have really added some great pieces with the transfers. I think the safety room is just fine.
100%. Yeah, I'm hoping for that big jump, man. I think, for USC, Oregon, Washington, even the Beavs, if those defenses jump up, man, they have real contention, especially, Oregon, Washington, USC, those offenses, you have a defense to match with that. It's going to be dangerous. Let's move on here. Oregon quarterback Bo Nix, he's entering his second year, appears, dark horse for the Heisman. He's on billboards and stuff like that, but let's say if Bo Nix was to go down with injury, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you in the backup? How confident are you for the backup quarterback position for the Ducks?
I don't know, 1 to 10, probably a 7.
7.
I think I'm maybe more confident than other Duck fans right now in Ty. I think he's the guy. I mean, he's been in the system long enough. I don't know why he wouldn't be. I mean, the guy has obviously done what he needs to do to be the backup. He hasn't looked great, though, to be honest. So, and when he's had his chances, but he's had some BS chances. He's playing with second string guys. He's playing a vanilla offense. He hasn't got the chance to really go with it. Last year when Bo got hurt in that Washington game, I really thought it was Ty's chance. And I was like, it's this opportunity to go get it. Let's see what he can do. And it didn't work out that way, obviously. And then Bo came back in with the hobbled ankle. And that was kind of a bigger shot to Ty than anything. I felt like that an injured Bo Nix was better than a healthy Ty Thompson. I don't know. I felt like that was kind of the writing on the wall there for Ty. And then he stays over the offseason when Bo comes back. So it's like, obviously, in these days with a transfer portal, nobody's got a backup quarterback that's the type of quarterback that Ty Thompson is. He's a seasoned vet at this point. He's been around. He's held the clipboard for a long time, but he's played a lot in practice, taken a lot of snaps, and, the guy should be ready. Physically, he looks huge. I don't know if you saw him at the spring game. He looked thick at the spring game. He looked way bigger at the spring game than he did in San Diego at the final bowl game. I don't know what you can do in a couple months like that, but he looked big. And, Bo probably will go down. I mean, he went down last year. That's the whole thing about football is we're one play away, man. If you live your life with one guy in that position, you're done. And the Ducks should know this. Our history's shown this. When Bill Musgrave went down, the season was over. And, when Justin Herbert went down, the season was over. It's like when Dennis Dixon went down, the season was over.
Yeah.
Like you can just keep going down the line. Vernon Adams didn't lose a game when he played healthy. every game he was hurt, they lost, including the bowl game where they were up fucking 30 points. So it's it shows that like the quarterback's important. If you lose your quarterback, you could be done. And if you don't have a good quality backup or two, you could be really done. So they brought in a transfer quarterback. I think that's going to help them. That's Brock Thomas. And I think that Austin Novosad is a good recruit, but I don't think he's ready to go. Mm-hmm. So I think it's Ty or nobody. I would hope that Bo Nix stays healthy by not trying to go for it on 4th and 1. Mm-hmm. Give it to the running back.
Yep, we have a bunch of them too.
Yes.
So, yeah, 100%. I agree. I know Ty gets a lot of slack from the fans because when he's gotten in, hasn't been the most impressive, but he hasn't even got the most consistent amount of reps either. He hasn't got in the game when it actually matters. So it's like until that 4th and 1, they ran it every time. And like you said, that is a bad sign. But getting built up,
those same fans wanted him over freaking Anthony Brown.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that whole debacle.
Who are you gonna listen to? Right?
Exactly. 100%.
Listen to the coach.
Yeah.
They obviously said that the thing was moving too fast for Ty as a freshman. So they're going to sit him, obviously. It's no joke. Then he gets a chance to play, but Bo comes. Okay, so you're going to wait. Now you're going to wait again? All right, let's do it again. You're going to get a chance.
They're probably they might bring a transfer in this offseason.
You know exactly they're going to. You know exactly they're going to. And whether that transfers at the point of 5-star or not, that's to be said. But or 4-star or however many stars you got, but another guy's coming in. And if you're Austin Novosad, you got to prepare for that too. Because then 100%. There's another 2 quarterbacks coming in the next class.
Yep.
I mean, so it's not like there's not quarterbacks coming.
Yep. They're going to load up.
Looked good. I watched his game on ESPN after College Game Day. He looked good. If you have a Degwu, he looked good on the defensive side.
Yep.
You're bringing in competition at the quarterback position. So if you're going to play at Oregon, you better be freaking good.
100%. And I think we'll get a good one. And Josh Pate, big fan of that podcast too, the Late Kick podcast. He says, when he always points a kid out for, we've seen it with DJ Uiagalelei when he got, on bench at Clemson. He talks about his teammates and how good they are and how he just wants his team to be successful. And Cade Klubnik, gives them the best chance. And now he transfers to Oregon State. That was Pate State material. When I seen Ty Thompson talk about, why didn't you transfer? And he's talking about, why would I want to prove something here. Why I came here for a reason. And he wants to be the guy. I'm excited, man. I'm excited. And I have the best hopes for Ty for real. And I think that was Pate State material for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Pate State, yeah.
For real.
Yeah. I got to meet Josh Pate last year at the UCLA game. Great dude. He does a great job with his thing, man. So cheers to them. I love the chalice thing he gives people. Anyway, I don't know. I think that this year it really depends on, at the end of the day, does the ball bounce in your favor? I think these games are all going to go very tight. I don't think you're going to run away with any of these things. And so, you're going to have these 4 games you're going to have to get through at the end of the year. And I don't think any of them are going to be easy. And the ball's going to have to bounce in your favor. Things are going to have to work out for you. And that might be a turnover here or there. That might be, a kick return or something special on special teams or something. You never know what's going to happen in these games. That's why we love college football. And so, having these prognostication things of saying, okay, I think we're 11-1 or 10-2 or whatever, that's fine. But, I think there's always a year where a team that you shouldn't lose to, you're in a ball game with them. And it's late and you got to win. Last year was Washington State. You had to pull that out of your ass at the very end. It was the Cal year with the Cliff Harris touchdown. Whatever the game is, you got to win. And you, for whatever reason, you find yourself in a freaking dogfight. And it's hard to get out of a football game when you're in one like that. Once you're in it, it's really hard to win it. And if you find yourself in one of those games with a good team like Washington, like you did last year, and you let them hang around and you let them burn you, or Washington or Oregon State or Washington State. I mean, any of these teams can burn Oregon this year outside of Cal and Stanford. I think that Oregon's even the desert going to Tempe at the end of the year is going to be a barn burner, man. And I think that the idea is that the last year of the Pac-12, it should be like that. I don't know about the time frames. I bet Oregon will get jammed with some after dark stuff, but it's just one of those things. It's one of those things where you don't know what's going to happen until it happens. And that's what's great about the Pac-12 is that it's an absolute wild card league, including the fact that USC this year could go undefeated or they could lose like 3 or 4 games.
Yeah, and they're back into the schedule's tough for the first 6 games. 100%.
And that's
so
what
the Ducks
too is like Ducks could go into that Washington game undefeated. So, whatever.
That's going to be a big one. So we play Texas Tech. You just said Washington, Utah on the road. We also have USC and the Beavers at home. Those are some of the most notable games on the schedule everybody's looking forward to. In your opinion, what game appears to be the most difficult on the schedule?
It's always the next, as a coach, it's always the next game, right? So the first most difficult game is Texas Tech. You got to win that game. That's the game that sets your whole year up. If you win that game, you're on a good trajectory. If you lose that game, you're on a bad trajectory, and you can't change that. You got to go through the losers bracket basically all the way to the end and win everything out. The USC game is the paramount game of the year. Nobody can deny that. It's the game, right? You've got the Heisman Trophy thing. You've got the whole Big Ten situation. You've got a great offense, a suspect defense. This could be an absolute showdown. It could be a lot like that Utah game last year where it's like 40-41 or 42-44 or whatever it was. The Utah game is the game I think a lot of really good, well-known Duck fans who know what they're talking about, quote unquote, are going to tell you that game is an absolute nightmare because Utah plays very tight. You've got this natural rivalry. It is the last game we're playing with them. We're not scheduling them again. I can tell you that,
man. Yeah.
And playing up there is no freaking joke, dude. The muss goes off. And I mean, they literally rival Autzen as being one of the loudest places in the Pac-12 because guaranteed Autzen and Husky Stadium are the only places that rival that. Zona Zoo, when it's like really rocking, maybe, quote unquote, but they haven't had shit for a team down there for a while. The muss brings it. Why, dude? They don't lose there. And I think the last time they lost there was the Ducks with the Joe Walker touchdown when the guy dropped it on the 1.
Yeah.
And that was like before COVID. So they just don't flat lose there. And I'm going to that game. I'm excited as hell to see that because, you know, it's the last one there. I just wanted to see the muss and I wanted to see that whole operation. I do love the Ducks' chances in that thing, though. I think that the Ducks legitimately in those 4 big games at the end of the year, I think they could win them all, but I think they could also lose them all. And I wouldn't be surprised if they did a 2-2 thing, or maybe I think if they go 3-1 in those 4 games, they're in the conference championship game. And then they're going to play a rematch of somebody. They're going to play one of those 4 teams again. I mean, I beat them twice now. Yeah. I personally want it to be Oregon State. I think that would be the greatest storyline of them all. That would be literally Walt Disney coming out of his grave to write a story on that one. If we could somehow get the Beavs to run through their schedule, the Ducks to run through their schedule and meet undefeated or meet with 1 loss or something like this and be able to then the next week replay it, freaking, that would be unparalleled.
Yeah, I think talk about a storyline.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. But I think it's going to be more like USC. I think USC will figure it out. I think people are kind of overreacting to their foibles week 0. And I do think that their defense will be better. It's not going to be good enough. It's probably not going to be good enough to win them any sort of CFP or any sort of playoff game or anything. But I do think they're going to get to the conference championship game. And if Oregon gets the conference championship game, I guarantee I'm going to Vegas for that one.
Oh, yeah. Got to, man. That's going to be awesome. So you mentioned Utah. Yeah. I've always argued on here that's I know USC is pretty great. I'm looking forward to that game, but I always argue that's going to be the toughest game on Oregon's schedule just because they don't lose there. They're 26-2 the last 5 seasons. Their last loss with fans in the stadium, I think, was 2018 against the Huskies. So that's strong. They don't make mistakes. That's gonna be tough. That's the
thing about them. They just don't make mistakes. I think Washington. I think they'll make.
They got a legendary coach, Kyle Whittingham. Man, that guy's
coach in the Pac-12. I think.
Yeah,
and so
100%.
I think the Beavs are going to be whether or not that they're the same team as they were last year, or if they're just automatically better because they had some additions. They've had a lot of subtractions too. So I'll have to believe when I see it. And this week actually is going to prove a lot because they played the Spartans this week. And that same team put up 200 against USC on the ground. It'll be interesting to see. I think OSU has a better defense than USC. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays. And that's at San Diego or San Jose.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay.
Yeah, the Beavs are on the road week 1. So I think it's interesting to kind of compare and contrast. That's one of my favorite things to do throughout the football season. See who beat who, what week did they beat them, what changed between week 1 or week 5 or week whatever the case may be. And you find in the Pac-12, the circle of suck, everybody beats everybody for the most part. And so it's guaranteed, I feel like this year, that USC is going to take a loss somewhere. Hopefully it's from the Ducks. And then I think the Ducks are probably going to take a loss somewhere. And I think, a lot of people think it's going to be at Utah. I like the Ducks' chances against Washington, and I like the Ducks' chances against OSU this year.
Mm-hmm.
But I like them every year against those teams. It's just whether or not they're going to win or not.
Agreed. I'm with you there. So a lot of teams, USC, Washington, Oregon State, even maybe UCLA. Josh Pate on the Late Kick podcast, that guy, he's got UCLA and Oregon. He's got UCLA and Oregon. So that's
a
crazy,
wild card.
Man.
He just is basically what he's saying there is it's not going to be USC.
Exactly.
And he thinks that maybe if it's not going to be USC, it's not going to be Utah. Who is it going to be?
Exactly. So as of right now, I know it's the preseason. Who's your favorite to win the Pac-12 this year?
Of course, I think I like Oregon, right? I mean,
yep, 100%.
But I'm not mad at all at the national media for putting USC at 6. I think it's fantastic they put Washington at 10. I think it's just fantastic that they're putting respect on the Pac-12 a little bit. The last year is a little late. They already wanted to kill the freaking conference. They did.
I know. Yeah.
But Utah at 14, Oregon at 15, that's reasonable. If you win, you move up. If you lose, you go down. So you keep winning, you move up, you get in the top 10. If you can get 3 or 4 teams in the top 10, that's Pac-12, dude, now you're living. And I think that's the key thing is that even if you lose to a top 10 team, you're not going to get penalized that much. They just never, ever rank the Pac-12 high enough. You never get there were years where Oregon only had 1 or 2 top 25 matchups. In the SEC, they're getting top 10, top 5 matchups constantly. Tennessee wins 4 out of the first 3 games, and they're in the top 15. Automatic. So I don't know. I think Oregon needs a lot of help this year to get to the CFP. I don't see them getting there. But if they win out, let's see it, man. I think they're going to have to either win out. I think they're going to the storyline is either they're going to have to win out completely, be undefeated, win the Pac-12, or they're going to have to lose to one team and then beat that one team in the conference championship game. I think that's the only way you get to the CFP. So if you lose to USC in the regular season, beat them in the CFP, or you go undefeated like TCU did last year and you lose in the conference championship game and be like, oh, don't count that against them. That's going to be a good team anyway or whatever.
I know.
I don't even think that way works. I still think that you're not going to go. That you need a lot of help to make that work. I think you have to go undefeated or you have to do what they did in 2014, which is they lost Arizona in the regular season and they got to beat Arizona in the Pac-12 championship. If you can do that, then maybe you can say, hey, I beat every team on the schedule and I redeem myself for that one loss. If that loss is even early in the year, that's the other thing. You got to lose early, and there's nobody early on their schedule. So I don't know. I think it's very difficult for the Ducks to get to the very final 4 this year.
Yeah, it's always been tough. I think the most realistic way to get there is if you lose, to either Washington, maybe USC, the Beavs, one of those good teams, and are able, they're a good team, you're able to go rematch them in the Pac-12 championship and avenge that loss. Because let's say if you lose to Texas Tech, I think it's going to be very hard for them to get back to the college football playoff talk. Out. And then, they're out. And then you can't even, they might have one loss,
unless they go undefeated.
But undefeated has never been done. Never been done in the Pac-12.
Right. And if they lose the Texas Tech game and then run the whole Pac-12, then they're in.
They're in, but that's never been done, which is hard.
Exactly.
So it's almost a must win that Texas Tech game if they want to make the college football playoff. That's almost a must win because
100%.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to beat a team twice probably to go. So that's another
100%.
hard thing to do. You're going to have to beat a team twice, or you're going to have to lose to them in non-convincing fashion and then beat them again when you get a chance, or have some sort of injury thing, like Bo Nix get hurt for a week, you lose to Cal or something.
Man.
And then the rest of the time you're fine. I mean, I don't know what the deal is, but again,
Right.
Walt Disney's writing these stories, so we don't know yet.
Facts, man. Well, Ryan, it's been a pleasure, man. It's been 40 minutes on here. Sorry, man. I kept you a little longer than expected, but
it's fine,
it's always a pleasure.
It's fine, man. You caught me after the live stream, so I'm well lubed, well oiled up here, so we're good.
Ready to go. 100%. I love it, man. Yeah.
Appreciate
so,
you,
guys, everybody knows who you are, but man, go ahead, shout your stuff out. Let people know where to find you and stuff like that.
Oh, Sports Chat 503. I'm on YouTube. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram. I'm not that active on sport or on social media, but yeah, YouTube. I don't even know how to put something on Apple or Spotify or something. So YouTube is
right
where
there.
it's at.
Sports Chat 503.
Sports Chat 503.
Bam.
Over 10 years now. You said you listened when you were a kid. I think I started in 2010.
I think I started listening to you around after the national championship game of Ohio State.
Right.
You were with your bro. That was like the first video I ever watched. You were with some other dude talking about the game.
Oh my God, Bo Rollins. That's my lifelong best friends. Been best friends.
That's awesome.
First grade. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, guys.
Okay. Well, thank you, man.
Yeah, 100%, guys. Go ahead and subscribe to Rian Winter, Sports Chat 503. I appreciate everybody for tuning in once again. I'm your host, Dominiqk Peterson. This is the DuckZone503 Podcast, where we talk all things Oregon football. If you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe. I'll see you guys for the recap and analysis episode after week 1 on Monday.